Welcome to the Equine Business Podcast. I am Jenni Bush, your host, and I'm here to help you to build stable equine businesses. Now, this week it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and so as part of that, I wanted to deliver a very special episode where we're going to talk a little bit more about mental health. But I've got a special guest for you. And my special guest today is Aaron Cork, who is launching a new initiative, a new business that's going to make a massive difference for any of you that have got staff or for anybody that's working in the industry and is wanting some help with the first aid when it comes to mental health. So let's dive in, shall we?
Okay, so welcome to the show. And today you're here to join me to talk all things mental health and mental health first aid, especially when it comes to equine businesses. So can you explain to me and everybody else that's watching or listening, what is mental health first aid? Yeah, so mental health first aid is about having a first point of contact when someone's feeling low or feels like they're entering a period of mental ill health, feeling like they're going through a prolonged period of stress. The first aid part is, as I said, it's just being about first point of contact, being somewhere where someone can get advice that they can maybe implement straight away to make themselves feel better, but then also find out more information about where they perhaps need to go to find support. Yeah. And it's so important, isn't it? I mean, this week in particular is Mental Health Awareness Week. And I was just reading actually this morning, came up on my news feed about actually at the moment, sickness and the time off work is the highest it's been in an awful long time. And a lot of that is probably sort of due to mental health and that then affecting our physical health. So how did you get involved in this? What made you decide that this was something you wanted to do? Well, I mean, I've been fairly open about the fact that I went through quite a horrible period of mental ill health a few years ago. I mean, if I look back on that now, I don't even really recognize myself. It was a really weird time, and I had to get help for that. However, a lot of the stress that I was feeling was caused by my workplace. My place of work, very, very large corporate company, very, very well-known company. They did have an internal mental health first aid system. So we had people within the business, colleagues who were trained to be mental health first aiders. However, the issue that I found was that when I spoke to a mental health first aider who was part of my immediate team, what I told them didn't remain confidential. And it was relayed back to my management team. And unfortunately, I don't know whether it did or it didn't, but I felt that caused people to treat me differently, which is why I wanted to set up basically an external mental health first aid company so that, people that use it are assured that it's completely confidential and the information won't go back to their employer. But then also wanted to start it for the equestrian industry because I don't feel like there is enough mental health support for employees of the equestrian industry at the moment. Yeah, and it's such a specialist sort of industry, and a lot of people don't get it. And I know it's like with people that I work with and businesses I work with, when they try and find help that's not somebody that understands the equine world, it's really, really hard.
Yes. Yeah, well, I completely agree. I mean, as I said, when I went through my period of mental unrest, I did get help from a counselor and she was brilliant. However, when I started to talk to her about stresses I was feeling, with things to do with my horse, she didn't get it. So actually, as I said, even though a lot of my stresses were coming from work, I do believe that if I possibly had spoken to a counsellor who had an equestrian background, I may have been able to be helped slightly more because, a lot of the issues I was having at work were then translating into problems with my horse or problems at my yard.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And horses, they know, don't they? I think you're when it's like as soon as something's going crappy, your mom can't life.
Yeah.
Like the horses, like even then, my daughter's not well at the moment, and even just something as simple as out of all the weeks for my horse to lose a shoe, he lost it the one day that I didn't go and sort him out, and my husband just it's like, "Where's my bug?"
That is punishment.
And they do, don't they? They
Yeah.
the horses mirror it, and then if it's affected how the horses behave, it's going to make a big difference, especially when it comes to running an equine business and if you've got staff. And I think this is so key. And I know we've spoken about this. Running an equine business is really, really hard. When you're at the level where you've actually got staff on board, while you do care about mental health, there's just so much else that you're trying to juggle. And so sometimes it's really, really hard to manage.
Yeah, I do completely agree. For example, if we take, someone who's running a yard, like a large competition yard, that person is going to be very busy and they may not have time to properly support their staff's mental health needs, which I think, unfortunately, for a member of staff who is suffering from mental ill health or is particularly stressed, that can then also manifest into a feeling of not being cared about, which can make the situation even worse. And I do think that in equestrian staff had someone that they could go to and speak to and say, I'm experiencing this or I'm feeling this, then they may know to get some help and therefore then feel better in their workplace.
And so we're working together to help you to launch this initiative and to launch your company. So tell us a bit more about what it is that you're going to be doing.
Well, I feel like it always changes on a daily basis. I keep having different ideas, but essentially, I am creating a company called The First Hurdle because I was having a conversation with someone and I said that sometimes just finding someone to speak to is often the first hurdle. And that's where the name came from. And it's a mental health service for the equestrian industry. So there will be support for business owners. There will be a service that they can subscribe to, whereby I then take responsibility for their employees' mental health. So I will become the person that their employee can come to, can speak to. There'll be an online portal with information that the employees can access at any time. And there will be a mental health first aid line too. So if anyone feels as though that they're struggling, they can book in a call, speak to me, and I can give them things to do and maybe give them some processes to go through to help them feel a bit better again.
Because ultimately, as you say, it's not just going to affect the horses, it's going to affect their staff's health, well-being, whether they're at work or not. And actually, if we can spot the signs early and put something in place, we could change so much for the equine industry in terms of, just the quality of actually being employed.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think that we seem to be in a bit of a strange time at the moment where I think quite rightly, a lot of equestrian staff are feeling that they deserve more. I think we're seeing a lot of very good staff move out of the industry to pursue other careers because they feel as though working for horses isn't for them anymore. And actually, I do believe that in a huge percentage of the cases, it's not actually the fact that the job's not for them anymore or that, they don't like horses anymore or that they're not good at the job. It's perhaps the fact that they don't feel supported or valued by their employers. Again, not on purpose, but as I said, these business owners are very busy and don't have time to support their staff properly when it comes to things like mental health. And I think often, as I said, that can lead to employees feeling like they're not valued and therefore they're leaving the industry.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where it's kind of like the grass is greener, isn't it? So it's just easier to go than it is to actually go, I need to water it where I am and fix the problem. So would you say there are any specific signs or symptoms that indicate that somebody is struggling with their mental health? How could a business owner recognize those?
I think that the main signs to look out for is that someone isn't themselves, possibly reacting to situations in a different way than they would usually, withdrawing themselves from other staff, so perhaps spending lunch breaks alone rather than with anyone else, if they had previously obviously been a very sociable character. It's things like that, really, severe weight loss or severe weight gain, tearfulness as well. There's all different things. It's just about being vigilant and, looking out for changes, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a tricky thing because I know a lot of us are very good at disguising it. It was always like horses and a prey, and they hide their pain. And I think especially us that work with horses, we get to that stage as well. So if somebody was actually going, do you know what, I'm not okay, but I'm not okay. Like what could they do?
Reach out for help. I mean, if someone feels as though they're not coping, the first, and when they feel like it's affecting their job or is being caused by their job, obviously the first line of action at the moment would obviously be speak to their line manager, speak to the business owner, speak to the yard manager. According to like the government website, business owners have a duty of care to look after their staff's well-being, and that includes their mental health, which means that really businesses should have processes in place to deal with periods of mental ill health if someone's going through it. And also that person should not be discriminated against because of it as well. So, there's a section on the website which says that mental illness should be treated the same as physical illness. So, giving someone extra breaks if they need it and things like that.
Yeah. And like, do you feel that there is still, I mean, because mental illness has become more and more common. People are more aware of it. People are more understanding. But do you still feel that there is sort of some stigma that goes on around mental health, and especially in like the equine industry? Like, what can we do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a real problem with possibly, with people saying, "Oh, it's nothing," and that's something that I have come up against before, like, "Oh, you just need to step out of it," or things like that. And there's people talk about like the snowflake generation, people that can't deal with stress anymore because they're snowflakes and can't deal with stress. But actually, things are very different to how they used to be. Like, we live in a much more stressful environment than we ever have done before as human beings. You've got people that are still very, very affected by COVID and lockdown and everything like that. And, I think a lot of people haven't really got over it yet. Still now, I think it's still there in the back of our mind. Younger people now have got the stresses of social media, which obviously the older generation didn't have to deal with. Cost of living crisis is gigantic, and especially for people who own horses, we all know that absolutely everything has gone up in price and everyone's struggling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think it's a lot more common than it used to be. But also, I do think that nowadays we're much more aware, or not that, I think we're more aware in ourselves as well. I think that as it is becoming more accepted to talk about mental health and to say that we're struggling, it is allowing people to become more aware of changes within themselves, which are making them not feel very good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's so important as well to know that sometimes it doesn't have to stay. Like, sometimes you feel like you're locked in, you feel like there's no way out, and you feel like you've got no choices. And I know, because I've been there and I've had all of that as well. And it doesn't mean because somebody's struggling now, doesn't mean that has to be their truth going forward once they get the help.
Yeah.
So, like, what would your one piece of advice be, like, to business owners that have got staff that might be struggling, or they might be struggling with their mental health?
Well, I mean, I guess that's twofold. For business owners who have staff, I would say absolutely you need to invest in your staff's mental health care. I know that we've had discussions about this, that if you're, again, I'm using a yard owner as an example, but if you have staff who are leaving because they don't feel valued and don't feel like you're investing in them, then obviously you've got a cost of retraining new staff. Not only with the retraining, you've got new staff who may not understand certain horses' needs, and obviously the horse's welfare has to come first. So it's about, finding trustworthy staff, perhaps having to take on freelancers who charge more money, that can only work part-time. So you're juggling between freelancers, there's all this sort of stuff. And I do honestly believe that a lot of the time, those sort of situations could be avoided if, employed full-time staff were invested in by their employers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it would make a massive saving, really, because what is the cost of having to retrain somebody or having to find another member of staff? So, what if somebody doesn't have a boss, or they're self-employed, or they're a staff member? Like, what would your advice be to them if they're struggling?
It would be to find someone to speak to. So, with the first hurdle, we are going to have a section completely dedicated to employees and self-employed people. So therefore, if someone is an employee of an equestrian business and they don't feel as if their mental health is being protected by their employer, then again, they can subscribe to our services and invest in their own mental health.
Yeah. And also, like, wouldn't it be awesome? Like, just this sort of again, like, if somebody has got their own business and actually they're now looking to grow, and every time they put up there, because they do need to have a new member of staff, if they were actually able to say, I take this seriously, I care about you, and I've got this in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a massive draw to a business for, potential employees to find out that that business truly does invest in their employees, because, I think that, as we've said, it's so much at the forefront of everyone's mind that to see something like that in print or in writing is, going to, as I said, going to be a massive draw to the company.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to really benefit, and it's so important that we actually sort of get that message across. So at the moment, we're in the process of getting everything set up for you and getting things going with the first hurdle, Aaron. So at this point in time, you're looking to perhaps speak to business owners that are going to help you to make this move forward and to get them on board. So what do they need to do if they're interested in working with you on this?
Yeah, so as you said, at the moment, the business isn't launched yet. There are still things being put in place. However, I am looking to speak to business owners and employees of the equestrian industry just to find out what services they feel like they would need. I want to make sure that what I've got on the website and the services I have available are actually going to help people and be useful to them. I don't want to put a load of stuff up there and people not find it useful and it not help people. So yeah, I would love for people to get in touch with me through Instagram and just see if there's anything we can do to put some good content together.
Yep. And so your Instagram handle is it just at first hurdle?
It's at first.hurdle.
So also, if somebody's interested in this, so one of the ways that you're going to get started and we're looking at is perhaps offering some audits so that you can actually talk to business owners, perhaps get some access to their staff, see when they're at and to see what sort of things that they need. So tell us a bit more about the audit and what the plan is with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the services the company will offer is a mental health vetting of the company, which will be a confidential questionnaire, which we will send to the business owner that they can forward on to all of their staff. The answers will come back to me rather than to the business owner. And from that, I will create a report on the mental health state of the business and what the employees are feeling. And then also give suggestions on what the business owner can do to improve things, perhaps discussions they need to have, talk about any extra training that the business owner might need with regards to dealing with mental health of their employees, and go from there. And I am going to offer 5 free audits for businesses if they get in touch. So again, just so that I can see how the questionnaire works, what questions I need to include, and whether it can work for people.
Yeah. So if you want to grab one of those free audits, head to Aaron's Instagram page, which is at first.hurdle.
Yeah.
Send Aaron a message and say, maybe even say, I listened on the Equine Business podcast. I have a mental health audit, and she'll know exactly where you came from and what needs to happen in order to make that something that's going to make a difference in your business. Because ultimately, if your staff are happier, if they've got better mental health, that's going to result in happier horses. That's going to result in happier customers and clients. It all trickles. Everything has a massive ripple effect, doesn't it? And when we do
absolutely.
that, I am convinced actually that will impact businesses in ways of more more sales, more clients, more customers, more money. And I think it will all pay off massively. So thank you so much for joining me today, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
Anything else that you'd like to say just to finish, or anything else you wanted to share?
No, just to say that the Instagram page is up and running. It's brand new. So many followers I can get would be brilliant.
Yeah, so head over there and give Erin a like, especially this week because it is Mental Health Awareness Week. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you all found this podcast a really, really useful episode. But yeah, it's so important that we actually are aware of this and we do whatever we can to ride through those storms so that our businesses can succeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.